Arizona for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, Director. Now, the administrator of OIRA makes a determination of whether or not a rule is major, although this information would have been submitted by the BLM. Major rules include those that are likely to result in 1, an annual effect on the economy of $100 million or more, 2, a major increase in costs or prices for consumers, individuals, industries, federal, state, or local government agencies or geographic regions, or 3, significant adverse effects on competition, employment, investment, productivity, innovation, or on the ability of the U.S.-based enterprises to compete with foreign-based enterprises in domestic and export markets. The proposed conservation rule was not determined to be a major rule, yet in 2023, BLM published a blog noting the recreation activities on the BLM public lands contributed about $11.4 billion to the national economy. In fact, your own testimony states, and I quote, "Programs administered on public lands managed by the BLM supported on an estimated $201 billion in economic output and approximately 783,000 jobs," end of quote. As conservation leases would potentially lock off these lands to current BLM permittees, I'd like to understand how the Bureau determined that this proposed rule did not have the impact of more than $100 million per year on the national economy, or would potentially create an impact in cost for state and local governments as their local tax revenue could potentially dry up from all this economic output. Will you share the entire economic analysis conducted by the agency and submitted to ORIA to make that determination with the committee?
Congressman, thank you for the question. As we were discussing earlier, the public lands rule is largely procedural in nature, implementing existing law through FLPMA, and therefore it received the determination that it received from OIRA.
So, I mean, this is a major impact, and it should have the evaluation because of its impact to state and local communities. Let's talk about this. So Arizona came into the Constitution and into this statehood. It was first rejected by Taft. Second, now, in the second attempt, Taft required that Arizona take the federal estate and then coerced Arizona, said in lieu of, we would have the multiple purpose aspects of the land in respect. So forming a contract with Arizona. So withdrawal of this is huge. And the impact on Arizona would be immense. So I don't know why it bypassed that, because it has special designation to it. I want to show that you're going to show how you came about that this wasn't a major rule.
Congressman, again, thank you for the question. OIRA made that determination, I believe, because this rule is largely procedural in nature.
But it's a major economic impact. So doesn't that take that rule and change it?
Any work that we do to restore the landscape to ensure our multiple use and sustained yield mission into the future, in fact, adds economic benefit. So for example, say we restore 250 acres of cheatgrass and get it back into a bunchgrass community that is good forage. That actually is of economic value. Anytime we invest in the landscape to make it more productive in the future, which is what this rule is going to do, it benefits the American people.
Okay, so let's go there. Did the BLM did not schedule a listening session in my state of Arizona on this proposed rule, which has, like I said, the potential to dramatically alter the way in which many of my constituents engage with the agency on a day-to-day business, not to mention its longer-term impact on their businesses, which are often generally owned. I understand the BLM is offering 2 virtual sessions, but you're making the assumption that everyone either has the ability to travel hundreds of miles in person to attend a listening session or to access broadband that is strong enough for these virtual sessions. For an administration that proclaims to value input from tribal communities and rural communities, I would think you would understand the challenges of Wi-Fi in rural areas, or the lack thereof. I'm not sure if you've ever visited these areas, but often there isn't even running water, much less reliable Wi-Fi. I would like you to commit to holding a listening session in my state of Arizona for all those impacted by this proposed rule.
Congressman, again, I'll take that back to the team and we'll get back to you.
Last question. Have you ever been contacted by an entity on behalf of a foreign entity or government or group representing an interest in a BLM decision?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I didn't hear.
Have you ever been contacted by a individual or foreign person representing a foreign entity or government representing their interest in a BLM decision?
Representing our interest in a BLM
Yeah,
matter?
Their interest in have you ever been approached by a foreign entity or those representing a foreign entity on behalf of a BLM decision?
Not to my knowledge, Congressman. I know that there are some companies that are, in Canada, for example, or in Australia that I've met with over mining interests.
Just really curious. I mean, from the standpoint of, we've seen, if you remember Rob Bishop, looking into some of the antics of China and Russia in regards to some decisions, trying to push money in publicity of these events. So we're just trying to make sure that that's going on along those lines. Thank you. I yield back.
The chair now recognizes Ms.